Shelkoff, and I'm with Engage by Sell, and we're going to be talking about some exciting HR and training kind of applications to some technology today and how to improve and make employee engagement as effective and efficient as possible. But Anna, if you wouldn't mind, pretty please go into the next slide for me so we can get started. So I introduce myself. I am Max. I am a senior mobile solutions consultant with Engage by Sell, and I will let Derek and then Karen, if you want to introduce yourselves. If you want to go first, Derek.
Sure. Derek Reed. I am the National Technical Training Manager for Dent Wizard Automotive Reconditioning Company.
Perfect. Karen, go ahead.
I'm Karen Kelly, and I am the CFO for Tristar Glass, which is a commercial glass fabrication company.
Fantastic. Thank you for joining myself today. And Anna, next slide. And I will, oh, sorry, before we go, we do have a quick little poll here so we can kind of get a feel for what everybody's role and why you're attending today and kind of what your current communication methods are. So then we can have an idea as we kind of discuss and talk about the platforms. I will go ahead and answer my little pieces. And panelists, unfortunately, we're not cool enough to participate, so we can just wait while everybody fills out their answers for us. We'll give that another 10 or 15 or so seconds. But what role do you play in your organization? And then how are you currently communicating with your employees? And that's something we're going to kind of discuss between Derek and Karen and myself today, this afternoon or morning, wherever we are. All right. Anna, if you want to go ahead for me, pretty please. All right, let's look. We got a lot of HR people, some others. We got onboarding, recruiting. Fantastic. So we got a good, diverse bunch of people. And as I was anticipating, email is always a heavy response on how we handle internal communications. And then Zoom, obviously, we're all on Zoom, and in person is always preferred, but sometimes, as Derek and Karen will probably talk, in person can be limited sometimes depending on where and what your employees do, right? So,
yep.
Fantastic. Thank you, Anna. All right, so a little bit about Engage by Sell before we dive in. We are a cloud SaaS-based technology company that focuses on all things primarily mobile device-based engagement. And we have been in business for 17 years now, 17 fantastic years. And we are diversified across a lot of different industries, not just kind of mobile communications, but touring, mobile web apps, wayfinding, GPS, and all the different use cases associated with that. And then there's some examples of our current clientele. All right, next slide, pretty please. So let's start with the tools. So what tools are we going to be talking about? So we're all familiar with texting, right? I know Karen probably texts all of her friends and family's employees. Derek does the same. I do the same. I text my friends, and I text my grandma who just turned 83, right? And everybody in between. So we all do it, but what is texting from more of an internal kind of use case, right? And as a more of a mass communication tool. So what our text messaging platform provides you with is a full 10-digit phone number, just like if you were texting someone else. But it's operated through our web-based platform. So it's going to appear as if you're just receiving a text message from a normal phone number. And part of the process is going through kind of a campaign approval. And I think it's important to mention because it's kind of the phone carrier's way and our way of vetting out the individuals who might not be using it appropriately, right? So it's what kind of defines and creates this atmosphere for texting to be effective and not spammed out like email is commonly, right? So we all get 4,000 emails a day that we don't want. And there's a kind of a strict process to make sure texting doesn't fall into that as well. But entirely web-based platform, 24/7 access, because I'm sure like myself, Derek and Karen operate maybe potentially across multiple time zones. We all work 8 to 5 every day, right? And that's it. The clock stops at 5 and then it's all done. They're right. Nope. So it is entirely web-based as a platform. And so there is no hard download required to access our texting, but and we'll run through some different use cases as we kind of dive in here. But next slide, pretty please, Anna. So why do we use texting? So that's important to know. So as many of you mentioned in that poll, right, email can be a primary means of communication, potentially just because that's the only tool you have at your disposal, right? So let's look at it at email versus texting and why texting has become such an integrated part of communication. It's because texting is much more effective. You can guarantee open rates of 95%, right? So, and it's not that hard of a statistic to imagine. I'll pick on myself real quick. So I have 2 unread text messages from my wife right now, but then I have 15,500 unread emails in my personal email, right? And that's going to be a really common occurrence for most people, right? So big picture, you can guarantee 95% open and read rate. So we're getting people that information that we need to get in their hands, training, onboarding, company info, et cetera, all these different things. And it's also going to have a much more effective as far as time frames. So emails can often get reserved for when I have that open 5 minutes, right? So especially if it's a remote technician or somebody working out in the field, you know, they're going to reserve that email for maybe when I get back to the service van or back to the truck or at the end of the day or in the morning. Whereas text messaging is much easier. Ding, look at it. I can respond right away, right? So statistically, that's kind of the differentials there. So the next platform is mobile web apps. So I don't know how familiar everybody on the call is with the difference between native applications, which is just the industry fancy technical term for an app, right? We all have 40 different apps on our phone. And mobile web apps is what we produce and help organizations like Karen's and Derek's build out. So the main difference here is native apps have to be hard downloaded to a device, right? And that develops kind of an issue and a challenge for Derek and Kelly and all other people out there of getting employees or external visitors, et cetera, things like that, to hard download something to a device. Now, the mobile web app is all URL based, so you don't have to hard download anything. You can just scan a QR code or click a little link, perhaps in a text message or an email, and boom, up pops what looks, feels, and acts just like an app that you would have downloaded, but it's all instantaneous like that. Huge advantages with our mobile web app platform, and I'll ask Derek because he has quite a bit of experience building out and creating content. Derek, you're a software engineer by trade, right? You went to school, got your master's degree in software engineering, and have a deep threshold for IT knowledge and capabilities.
Yeah. With all my spare time, I definitely dive into it. But yeah, no,
Right.
I worked on cars most of my life, and then now
Perfect.
I'm an engineer for sure.
Yeah. So point being is, and that's a joke for those of you on the call, it's all drag and drop building. So there's no IT knowledge required to maintain or build content such as text or images, surveys, polls, videos, audio files, etc. And again, a huge advantage here is it's all going to be accessible 24/7, right? To work on this platform and for the end users. So in their spare time, if they need to refresh themselves on any content, or in Karen's case, if there's newsletters for the company or things that I want to reflect upon internally, I have access to that whenever I need it, right? All right, next slide, pretty please, Anna. All right, so let's dive in. So Derek, tell us a little bit about Dent Wizard as an organization. I know it, but obviously it's going to come best right from the source. So just a broad overview of what Dent Wizard is, what you do, how you use our platforms, and kind of who the audience is, and then we'll dive into some more detail.
Yeah, sure. So Dent Wizard International, we actually been around since the early 80s. We are the largest automotive reconditioning company on the planet. We actually do full automotive conditioning from paintless dent repair, which is what I did for most of my career, about half my life. We also do smart paint repairs. We do wheel repair, interior repair, glass chip repair, pretty much anything when it comes to the aesthetic reconditioning of a vehicle, internally or externally. We actually provide that to dealerships and partners throughout the country. And now even recently getting into mechanics and actual what we would consider like a frontline fast service, where you would bring your used car to us from a dealership, we would get it ready to sell and give it back to you ready to go for the weekend sale.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And who is kind of your audience that you use to our platforms to engage with?
Sure. We started pretty small scale when I met you, Max. Obviously, I was looking to engage my technicians mostly from a training aspect. I had just become a program manager for our one training program for PDR. And I was looking to communicate with them coming into training while they were at training and deliver information. And then it started scaling into all technicians across the company, updating on training processes, new tools, new procurement, vendor selection options and stuff like that. And recently, honestly, within the last few months, it has taken on such a large scale application in the company to where we're now merging all of our departments and the entire census of the organization for a full employment engagement platform, just because of people were seeing what I was doing in training, and everyone was like, can you build me one of those? I'm like, sure, of course. What do you want? Tell me what you need. Yeah, it's got pretty widespread lately.
So are all of these employees that you're utilizing these platforms with, are they scattered about the country? Are they, remote employees? Are some of them in an office? Is it a mixed bag?
Yeah, we have about 5,000 employees currently, and over half of those are actually mobile technicians. So they're out working the streets, working dealerships or various accounts with our company issued cell phone, and don't have laptops. So it was really, really important for us to be able to deliver this information via text message and via this mobile app platform. And the rest of them, yeah, we do have some people remotely. We have some people, for instance, here in Charlotte or in St. Louis at the headquarters. But for the most part, I would say the majority of our users are all mobile technicians just off their phone.
Fantastic. All right. Well, Anna, if you want to dive on here. So tell us a little bit before we met each other and started kind of deploying this platform. How were your main means, and which one I'm going to specifically bring up and pick on you with, but what were some of the ways you were communicating with your technicians before texting?
Yeah, of course, we've always had email. That's been around since, I don't know, at this point, the dawn of forever. But it wasn't really getting the job done as far as I was concerned. So back in 2012, I actually started the very first Dent Wizard Facebook group. And I was just a technician, but I was like, I want to be able to communicate with people and I want to kind of learn from each other. So I built this community on Facebook back in 2012. Currently, we have about 1,200 members in that group, which is huge.
It's huge.
But yeah, it's a big group and it's constantly active. But even still, 12 years later, that's a quarter of our employee database. So it wasn't really all inclusive. Not everyone wants Facebook. I don't want it. I wish I didn't have to have it. But it was hard to get that engagement and it's hard to target properly. So I started looking into other formats and, I was quickly just fell in love with this platform, when Max, I met and have really, really, really pushed the engagement to this level. And especially because we have company issued phones, it just made so much sense. I can't force anyone to have Facebook, nor would I, but I can force a text message to the phone that we gave you. So
absolutely. Absolutely. And I tell you, if Facebook Marketplace had its own app, I probably wouldn't, but I'm one of those people that scroll endlessly looking for that sweet deal. But yeah. So and when we first met, I found that fascinating that, a company of your scale had, and that's just solely based upon you taking the initiative of trying to find a better way, a tool, right? And that's why I thought it was admirable and kind of interesting that Facebook messaging was kind of the platform you were clinging to, and then obviously Engage by Cell provided a more streamlined, all-encompassing capability there. But Anna, if you want to go to the next slide here. All right, so obviously you have a lot of training materials, right? I mean, for your technician specifically, there's a lot of different things they do, right? And a lot of different variables that go into those different services that you provide. So how were you providing some of those materials before the mobile web app filled that gap for you?
Yeah, I think that's an amazing question for this, because this was a huge deal for me. A lot of our business, a lot of our technical training, it's all very technical. It was, you would come into a training facility when you were hired, you would go through a training, which lasts anywhere from 2 to 8 weeks. You actually live at our headquarters, at a hotel next to the headquarters, but train with us every day. And it was very almost folklore like. It was intellectual property being communicated from the masters before you and showing you how to do these things. And then you would leave training and get out to the field, and we were mostly just in our bubble, and it was a lot of trial and error. If you were fortunate enough to know another technician in your market or have friends, my uncle was a technician, I could bounce stuff off of them and we could communicate with each other. But really, we didn't have access. That's the thing. We had an intranet, very, very, very minimal scale intranet back in like 2010, but nobody was putting the content on there, so it didn't engage people to go to that platform. So yeah, honestly, it was a lot of word of mouth, which is why I started the Facebook, because I was like, I need to talk to more people. Like, I just need to hear from more people. And what this has done is really allowed us to not only target it properly, but put it in a very useful space.
And I love that word intranet, right? So that's something that I help our customers kind of envision the capability for all the time. And really, I don't really think it matters whether it's a public based organization, a non-for-profit, a private institution with hundreds, thousands of technicians like you have, Derek, but every single organization has training materials and HR materials and calendars and all this other stuff, right? Content that oftentimes is housed in all these different places, and really providing that centralized hub, that intranet streamlines everything. And I just imagine kind of, I like the folklore piece you brought up as well, because I'm imagining if I'm a technician working for Dent Wizard and I go out into the field, right? And I, covered quite a bit of materials, I imagine, in that initial onboarding training. And if I need that quick little refresher of, oh man, how do I do this? What's step 2 in this process of XYZ, whatever? I just imagine that technician being able to pull that mobile web up, find exactly what he's looking for, watch that quick little video or read that little blurb about how to do that. And I think providing that capability of these little micro learning refresher points along the whole lifetime of that employee working with you is going to be critical and really effective. So,
well, yeah, and I think even to take it a little bit further, like, you can have an intranet of any platform, really. But what I was most fascinated about with this platform was, even with an intranet, you still have to search for stuff. You still have to go digging through things. Now, with the keyword and the primary keyword and auto responses, like, I have literally built out a glossary of words to where anyone in our organization can text benefits, text contacts, all the different things. And it's hundreds of words deep, I think, at this point. But that immediate recall is so valuable. I've seen a lot of engagement with that. It's very, very awesome. I love it.
Fantastic. Thank you. All right, Anna, if you wouldn't mind. All right. So this is always first and foremost when we start working with an organization is, one of the key questions we get asked is, how do I deploy this? How do I roll out Engage by Cell to my employees, right? And that could be internally, obviously, or externally. How do I roll it out to my customers, depending on the use case? But in your experience, Derek, what were some of the ways, and I'll let you keep talking, and then I'll flip it over, Anna, if you wouldn't mind going to the next side too, because it kind of shows some examples. So tell us a little bit how you rolled it out to the employees at Dent Wizard.
Yeah, so I started very small. Obviously, I was not an engineer or programmer, so I was kind of dabbling with this in my spare time and dragging and dropping things in and learning it. So I started initially just by the trainees coming in, I would text them and I would say, hey, text the word wizard, our primary word. And I started off really low key with that. And then as people started seeing it, they were asking for more and more information. So I started sending emails, I started sending more text messages. I started obviously the Facebook, a post here and there of just like, honestly, I launched it almost as like a pilot beta testing. I was like, hey, do me a favor, text this word to this number and tell me what happens. It was kind of like
Right.
a scavenger hunt for a few of them. And then as people started to find out that I had the platform, which I was pretty low key about, like I said, I started developing what you guys are seeing now of these flyers where there's a QR code that goes to our job opportunities. And then keep in mind too, I've only been developing this platform for about a year, a little over a year now.
Yep.
February of this year, which was like about the 1 year mark from when we first met, I actually went to our summit. We did an appreciative inquiry summit this year. And I did a big presentation about technician engagement. And I actually unveiled the platform in front of 300 people, including the executive team and leadership team. And because they're like, we need more communication, we need these things. And I was like, y'all, check this out. Look at what I built.
Check this out.
And I actually had made these flyers to go. We actually did an expo, and this was how I launched it to the entire organization. And since then, it has just skyrocketed. I think the most important thing about that is that I started very small, and its own ability organically almost got ahead of me. It got like, at one point, everyone's like, can I get one? Can I get one? Can I get one? Can I get one? But word of mouth, again, in our organization really spread this super quick. And especially because we have company issued phones, it was very easy just to drop the numbers in. You guys made it super, super, super easy. Drop an Excel census in, boom, here's all the phone numbers, text everyone, welcome to the show. And everyone's like, oh, what is this? Click the link. Oh my goodness, who did this and where did it come from?
Perfect.
Yeah, it was very organic.
And I think that's important too. And is we engage by sell, when we onboard new customers, we kind of coach best tips, tricks, practices, things like that. And I think you illustrated that really well, Derek, of kind of the everything in the kitchen sink method, right? It's all just about gaining as much exposure, obviously depending on scale of deployment and things like that. But I see it from, what you've done with these beautiful flyers and posters and handouts and pushing out texts, and then obviously including QR codes and email signatures is super common. Put them up in the break rooms, get creative, get fun with it. I've had clients who have had the, like sugar cookies, how you can have like the custom frosting print, right? The little laser frosting print. They've put QR codes on cookies. I've seen clients put them on the wrappers on candy bars and handing them out to employees. But I think you've done a really, really great job, Derek, of providing accessibility to it on multiple levels, right? And then letting it happen organically, because that's what often, occurs once you put it out there. It's kind of the field of dreams. If you build it, they will come, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of how it flows.
But I think the beautiful thing too about the platform is, yes, I have QR codes everywhere that says like, hey, opt in, scan this to go into the opt in screen, choose your classes, put in your name. But I'm also using, like I had mentioned before we got started here, I just generated nearly 200 QR codes for content to target videos and target different processes and stuff like that. And so now in our training facilities, I have stations, right? Hey, this is what we're working on today. Scan this QR code to watch the video that's going to show you the basic information. Then we're going to get hands-on with it. But as soon as they scan that QR code, it opts them in to another group or another thing. And once you start playing with the networking of the platform itself, about this QR code does this, it auto replies a text message here, or it puts you into this group or puts you into that. Like I said, it's really organic how fast it can grow and spread. I was impressed with how easy it was to get people on board with the system.
Thank you very much, Derek. All right, Anna, next slide, pretty please. So obviously, I think everybody kind of gets the gist that it was pretty successful, and we've had some great luck and engagement built within the Dent Wizard organization. But were there any unexpected outcomes that kind of came from left field that surprised you?
Yeah, like I said, coming into this from a training perspective, it was highly targeted, but it didn't take very long for other departments to start saying, hey, how might we use it for this? How might we use it for this? Over the past few months, I actually launched a new impact training program, which is a field training platform that I developed specifically because someone saw this and they're like, man, you should like use that to communicate with the field trainers that are doing field training. So now we're actually having, I have about 200 active impact trainers around the country that every single Friday they get a text message that goes to their weekly evaluation reports. The trainees that they're working with get another text message that go to their evaluation reports. And because your guys' platform reporting system is so in depth, I'm using that to take a lot of data and say, okay, well, I can see that people are struggling with this component. Now I need to ramp that up in training. People are doing really, really well with this. So maybe I can min max those couple of days differently here. And then really starting to branch into all the other departments of everyone saying, oh, well, can you help us communicate? Can you do this? We actually went from a entire 10-day or a 10-hour operations training day to one button on this phone that has videos of recall to we got an entire day of ops training just by integrating it into this system and telling everyone, hey, if you want to know about your benefits, text the word benefits and there's a video and here's all the documents.
Fascinating.
So it saves a lot of time for a lot of people, for sure.
I love that. I love that. Well, thank you very, very much for sharing that, Derek. And Karen, are you still with me? You still
I
here,
am.
Karen? All right. I didn't forget about you. All right. So let's move and transition here into Tristar glass products. And Karen is excited to tell us a little bit about the organization, what you do, how many employees, et cetera, things like that. Would you mind sharing a little bit of that information with us, Karen?
Sure. So we're a commercial glass fabrication company. So we do mainly commercial insulated, tempered and insulated glass for large commercial construction projects. We are just the supplier, so we're just the ones making the glass. So I have about 250 employees spread over 3 different plants, and most of my employees are typical production workers, so they don't use email. Email is a real struggle, and it was a bit of a change when I moved from the the world of public accounting into this environment that people weren't sitting at their desk looking at email every day. So
Yep.
this very natural way for us to do mass communication with our employees.
I love it. Thank you. And the next slide, pretty please. So all employees, right, is your target audience. And as you
Right.
mentioned, I think it's critical for those employees, like you said, right? So employees that don't have access to desktop computers all day long, they're not sitting there like I am all day at my desk, checking emails, et cetera. How were you, whether it was effective or not, trying to communicate with your employees before?
Well, as you implied, not very well. We weren't doing a very good job. A lot of it involved if we would print flyers and we would send those on our trucks to try to get to post at the plants. We would try emails, but mainly that was it. It was something very critical. It would just have to be something that goes through a plant manager, and he would try to get the message out to everybody at the plant.
Yeah, and that's super difficult. I come from a distribution background, and I know we kind of did the similar thing to you of, hey, I'm telling Derek who's delivering on Route B today that needs to talk to the guys over there, and then I'm telling Karen who's driving over here today. Hopefully we get that network out there. And it becomes that challenge of, man, I'm just kind of spraying and praying, crossing my fingers, right? And that's,
Absolutely.
yeah. Yep. All right. Perfect. Well, next slide, pretty please. So transitioning from the texting and kind of the communication distribution of just the click of a button and everybody received that text, and we don't have to chase delivery drivers or plant managers, et cetera. So how have you deployed the mobile web app into your processes internally?
So we've been doing this for 5 or 6 years now, I believe. And I kind of launched it. We do meetings once a year with all employees involved in all plants, all locations, mainly to go over benefits. But we gathered everybody's cell phones, made it very clear that we needed to have current, and then we just told everybody that this information to stay in tune, know what was going on is going to come through this app. And after that, we kind of launched our newsletter as well. And then the other thing, well, mainly the way we launched it right after that is we built out our webpage to show it's got our all of our benefits and 401k information and things like that. So it's kind of a one-stop place too that employees could go to, because that was another place where we were losing employees and trying to get that information out. And then since then, we do use it as a main form of communication, whether it's monthly newsletters. Sometimes we just send out riddles, and the first person that gets the riddle right, gets a T-shirt, things like that.
And I love that about your use case, Karen, is I think that's important to know. And you have 250 employees. How do you make every employee feel like an individual, right? Like you matter. You're not just a number, right? And I love your use case. And we worked on a little project, a little engineering about you can upload everybody. Is it work anniversaries and birthdays? Is that what's included? Tell us a little bit about that little project.
Yeah. So all of our employees, we have their birth date in there as well as their start date and their work anniversary date. And on their birthday and or anniversary date, well, both, they get a little personalized text. I actually think it has a little gift with it now too, that just says, happy birthday from your friends at Tristar. And I've gotten them, so I know that they're going out and they're working well.
It works.
Yep, exactly.
I love that. And that's, I think, a critical piece of enabling engagement like this is making it easy. And even on Derek's large scale, 5,000 employees to 250 employees with Karen and Tristar Glass. It's how do we engage them as effectively as possible, from things as important as training and HR all the way down to just making that person feel recognized, right? And that's just critical across the board. And I know receiving little things, I love that you mentioned you do little, was it scavenger hunts or riddles? Is that what it is?
We do. We didn't do it this year. Last year we did like an Easter egg hunt and had funny little things that they had to go find based on some clues. And then the winners got, I think they got Tristar swag for finding or playing in the contest.
I love that.
But it's fun to engage people that way. And I like the app too, because we don't, that's obviously hard to do across 3 plants, but the app allows us to, segregate our employees and classify them so that if we're only doing that here in the branch of Tulsa, then that message is only going to people here in Tulsa, vice versa. If I only have a night shift, an issue for the night shift, then that only goes to night shift employees, which is a really nice feature.
That is very nice. I like that a lot. And also kind of to backtrack a little bit with the HR side of things, right? Like benefits, like Derek has it set up and you have it set up too, Karen, is oftentimes when you get certain scalability within a company, even on smaller companies of 40, 50 people or even smaller, sometimes if you have a question about your benefits of what's in network, what's not, what's my 401k, blah, 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 sometimes you don't even know who to call. Right. I mean, I can pick up my phone or I'm asking my manager, and my manager's like, I don't know, I got to talk to them, and so on and so forth. And just creating that environment of that really organically accessible information, right? And not only does it streamline it, but it improves the employees' capabilities of, they feel like, hey, I know exactly where to get that info. I feel like it's accessible. I'm not ignoring it because I don't want to go through this big communication chain and all that. So I think what you're doing, Karen, with providing the individualized feel of, hey, they know when I started here, they know my birthday, I can reach my information when I need it, I get my newsletter, I feel up to speed on everything. I think all of those things combined create a really phenomenal work atmosphere for the employees. And I think that's really important on engagement and communication and all of that. So Anna, would you mind going to the next slide, pretty please? So quick, easy question. We saw Derek's, but I'm sure you probably deployed a lot of similar things, Karen, to get it out to everybody. But how did you roll it out? Did you upload a list? You know, how'd you go about rolling out the services to everybody?
Yeah, we just uploaded a list out of our payroll software once we kind of got everybody's cell phones correct, and
Yep.
we just launched our general the main web page that we have that lists all of our benefits and everything.
Yeah.
And we've just kind of taken it from there.
And I love that. And it doesn't have to be this big, giant, complicated process sometimes too, you know? And obviously, Derek, it's more difficult when you have 5,000 people, right? But when you have 250 and you might just have a payroll software that kind of houses everybody, and keeping everything up to date is another challenge too. But sometimes it is just as simple as taking one list, uploading it into the system, and it can be that easy and that quick, right? So I think it's important to understand that full deployment across 80 different ways and gaining as much exposure. And then it can be also a very simple process, depending on use cases, of just uploading a list and we're good to go. We're off to the races, right? So next slide, pretty please. And so were there any unexpected advantages you've ran into, Karen, that we haven't covered, you know?
No, I think we've mostly covered it. I get a lot of feedback that the guys are happy that they know what's going on. The newsletters have been a success. Again, we used to try to post those, but the fact that they can just read them on their phone now, and I know they're getting read now because we also put little jokes and riddles and things in there, and people respond to them. So yeah, I think it's enhanced our culture even more, because we started off as a small company, and we've tried to maintain that culture throughout as we've expanded. And I think this continues to enhance that we do truly care for all employees here.
Maybe that's the unexpected advantage is the company culture forms around communication, right? So I think that's important to note for everybody. So last slide, I think here, Anna, if anybody has any questions in the attendee list, if you want to go ahead and throw them in the chat, we can address them. This has also been recorded, so we'll distribute this via email to everybody who attended. And if anybody has any questions, please feel free to reach out to my email there, max@engagebycell.com, or reach out to me on my direct line listed there as well. But again, I want to thank you, Karen and Derek, for taking the time to spend and share your experiences and your success with the platform and how engagement has been improved through the platforms. And I know we all work together, we all learn together, and all of these examples of success stories helps everybody on the call, right? So we might have one question here. We also use our payroll system to upload text all. How does this work? Requirements to have people opt in. So good question. When you get people to opt in, they can text in a keyword that will enroll them into a list that you can engage with that way. But kind of from a legality standpoint, internal communications always provides the ability for someone to opt out as well. Now, Derek's use case might be a little bit different because it is company-owned phones. So what you do with company-owned phones is a little bit different than asking employees who use their personal phones. But each text that goes out provides opt-out language so that if that individual doesn't want to participate in the texting, that's totally fine, right? And they have the opportunity to text end and opt out of the texting. So good question there. All right. I'll give another little 30 seconds here, but again, Karen and Derek, I can't thank you enough for taking the time. I know you're both very busy people with lots of things to do, but I think how we all improve our organizations is sharing what works, what doesn't, what we tried, what we failed at, what we did good at, all of these different things, right? And if anybody has any questions, please feel free to reach out, and we will again send this out via email to everybody. Any last minute tidbits you want to share, Derek or Karen?
Yeah, I wanted to say one of the things I've really appreciated about working with Engage by Cell is much like Karen had with the birthdays, which actually I'm probably going to ask someone to give that to me as well. I think that that's awesome. But you guys have been very, very flexible with us reaching out and saying, hey, what about this? Or hey, like I was thinking about this, and working with your team to help add those kind of little special things has been incredibly easy, first and foremost. And I really appreciate you guys being open to us offering those suggestions or ideas, and you guys constantly just coming through for them. It's been really, really appreciated.
I appreciate that very much, Derek. Yeah, my team works very hard to be as accessible as possible, right? And that's kind of how, like I just mentioned, we all live and learn, right? And we don't continue to be on the cutting edge side of things without, you know, Karen coming to us and saying, what about birthdays and work anniversaries and things like that? And we're like, Karen, that's a great idea. Let's build it out, right? So we can continue to do things like that. And Derek, you've given us some great ideas too. And it builds that environment to just continuously make things better. And yeah, thank you for that, Derek.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. Perfect. Well, thank you for all of those who attended. Thank you again, Karen and Derek, and we'll send this out. But if anybody has any questions, please feel free to reach out. But have a great day, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Max.
Enjoy the